For minors age 17 and under, top and bottom gender reassignment surgeries will not be permitted. For children age 15 and under, puberty blockers and hormone therapies for the purpose of gender reassignment or affirmation will also not be permitted, with the exception of those who've already commenced their treatment at this time.
And we will recognize once and for all that parents come first in raising our children. Their values should come before the government's imposition.
The fact that Premier Smith and Pierre Poilievre want government to take away the option for parents and their vulnerable youth in consultation with their doctors to make the right decisions for them is anchored in ideology and is not about protecting the most vulnerable.
It is telling that the week after welcoming far-right American conservative Tucker Carlson to her province to sit with him on stage, Danielle Smith has now moved forward with the most anti-LGBT policies of anywhere in the country.
The Conservative Party of Canada has started to speak out against the rise of transitioning among kids. In recent years, an increasing number of children, particularly around the age of 14, have begun identifying themselves as either trans or non-binary, often involving treatment with hormonal therapy and puberty blockers with the help of doctors and counselors who are increasingly putting gender ideology over the health and safety of their patients. Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, has stated that he does not support trans kids taking puberty blockers, medication used to pause puberty before gender transition, or other interventions such as hormone therapy.
Medical interventions like what?
That is the language that your party
What medical
uses.
interventions?
Well, you would have to ask your party members.
What medical interventions?
Such as puberty blockers and hormone
For minors?
Yeah. Yes.
Irreversible? You're talking about irreversible?
I'd like to understand your position.
No, I want to be clear. I just want to be clear.
For minors.
Puberty blockers for minors?
Yes. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that?
I think that we should protect children and their ability to make adult decisions when they're adults.
Are transgender people welcome in Canada now that the Conservative Party, its policy not to let them use the bathroom of their choice and also to limit their healthcare options as minors?
That is, the answer, of course, is that everybody's welcome in Canada, and your question is factually wrong. I encourage you to actually read the policies instead of spreading disinformation. We need less disinformation and more honesty and truth-telling, and your readers are suffering a very big disservice when you spread disinformation. Thank you.
This stance has led trans activists to label the Conservative Party as transphobic and bigoted. However, there are members of the community who recognize the harm that radical ideologies imposed on children can inflict on the LGBTQ+ community. Blaine Baiduk is one such individual. She is transgender herself and proudly identifies as a conservative, speaking out against the indoctrination and LGBTQ+ propaganda prevalent in Canada.
Yeah, my name is Blaine Baiduk on Twitter. Probably find me. I'm an Albertan. I am a trans woman, and I'm a proud conservative as well. And I'm happy to be here at CSFN with 1,000 other conservatives across the country who want to unite our movement and move forward in common sense across our country.
Conservative has most like a transphobic bigoted because they are putting policies for protecting children and protecting women's space. What do you make of that?
Yes, conservatives get a very bad rap, and that's just, it shouldn't be further from the truth. I've been here for 3 days, haven't received any hate. I wasn't even misgendered once. So this idea that if you hear from the left and you hear from the media, this should be the most unsafe place for me. And it's not, it's probably the safest place for me. I wouldn't feel safe in a left-wing space because you can't express disagreement, you can't express different ideas. And on this side, we believe in free speech, we believe in the debate of ideas, and we can disagree with each other, and that's okay. I think what we're seeing across the country with some premiers, with parental rights and enhancing families, trying to build families stronger, and specifically when it comes to trans teenagers, they need the support. They need special support, and we're seeing that with Premier Smith's policies. That's the goal, from what I understand them. And the end goal is to build a stronger family, and how we do that, and parents have to be involved in the raising of their children. It's just common sense.
Have you seen a changing on the type of children who wants to transition?
Yeah, it's a new landscape where there is the possibility of some teenagers transitioning who are not actually trans. It's some in the community would call it the social contagion. I don't subscribe to that remark, but there is something else going on. Historically, the rate of trans people was significantly lower than what we're seeing now. And teenage puberty is a very complex time with a ton of emotions and a ton of feelings, and every teenager needs that space to figure out who they are and however they identify themselves. And that may take time, and in some cases where they've had a long-term gender dysphoria diagnosis, then we can look at medical transition, but it needs to start with therapy as a foundational principle, and they just need support. They need to allow themselves to be kids, let kids be kids, and I think that will help hopefully stop some of the increase that concerns me, and it should concern all of us within the community.
Do you receive a lot of backlash for saying things like that?
Somewhat, yeah. There's those in the LGBT community who believe you have to be left-wing to be LGBT, and it's just not. We are a diverse group of people. Like with any group, there is no single group owns no party owns a single group's votes, and we see that from some of the from the left, who just really try and push back against anyone who is more of a conservative from the LGBT community, or who dare say that parental rights are important, or dare say that we need to be cautious when it comes to medical transition. And we do have a lot of safeguards in place, and I think most doctors are doing a great job, but we don't have a perfect system. And we have to try and get to a better system that protects everyone involved.
When did you see a changing on the landscape of LGBTQ movement?
I mean, I've seen it for quite a while. It became really apparent to me in the past, couple of years, where we're seeing this movement expand into something that just wasn't what it was originally. LGBT was very, frankly, simple. And straightforward. Now we have an ever-expanding list of identities and everything, and identities do help. They help you feel, potentially, if you can find a label that you identify with, and help you feel more included or whatever. But it's an ever-expanding list that could allow bad faith actors to identify into this movement, and so that's why a lot of us are starting to come back and say LGBT or LGBT2S for the two-spirited Indigenous community. But a lot of us are stopping with the Q+ going down the list because we just don't know, in some cases, these potential bad faith actors, that we have to protect our community and ensure that we are building for that respect and diversity that Canadians are known for. Canadians are very respectful. We respect diversity, and that's what we have to return to.
What are your thoughts on what is going on in the school system?
I think in the school system, I know many teachers, and they do an excellent job. Teachers are some of the hardest working professions in this country by a mile on, and they deserve a pay raise. What we're seeing in some isolated cases, these are isolated cases of a few teachers in some parts of the country who have chosen to push an agenda, and that's just that's not proper. Most teachers are not. It's a very rare case. I want kids to be taught critical thinking, to be taught how to communicate and survive within a liberal democracy like we are as Canadians. And that's really important. They have to be engaged members of society, and we can't have them all come out thinking one thing is the truth. We should be taught critical thinking. They should be questioning things, and we should engage in that critical thought process. kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for, I think. And there's a lot of teachers who definitely want to do that. And that's what we need to see. We need to stop some of the quote-unquote indoctrination that's happening in some remote schools. And we just have to, at the end of the day, let kids be kids, let parents parent, and let teachers teach. And stop putting everything onto teachers. They are not social workers. They're not psychologists. They are teachers. They're trained to teach, instruct a curriculum and assess the students. That's their purpose, not everything else that they've now been asked to do by successive governments.
Do you think that the DEI is actually effective? Do you think it's working, or is actually doing the opposite of what it should be?
I think in some regards, it's working. In others, it's having the opposite effect. We are seeing a regression in terms of respect for diversity. There is no question that there is less respect now for the LGBT community than there was a decade ago. And so is EDI actually working? That's not for me to determine. I'm not a specialist. I think what some people have tried to treat EDI as a checkbox. They made everyone do some training and stuff. That's not going to work. That's going to make people resentful. If you actually want to be equitable and embrace diversity and inclusion, then you made sure that the table's open, so everyone has a fair shot, and we don't choose you just because of an identifiable factor, because that's not fair to anyone involved, and especially not fair to these EDI hires. If they're just hired because of, for example, the color of their skin, that's not fair to them at all. They can earn that. We know they can earn it on their own merits. We have to give them the space to do so. And it starts by having honest conversations, actually meaningful efforts to include everyone, like we're seeing with Indigenous reconciliation, for example, genuine reconciliation, not just talk about it. I think that goes with EDI. There's a lot of talk about EDI. It's very easy to talk about it and claim your EDI. It's really hard to actually do it, though. And I think we as conservatives are just naturally prone to, we believe in equitable. We believe every human is equal under the law. And if we return to that, I think we're on it a lot closer to a true equitable and diverse and inclusive future.
Do you believe that we should protect the women's sport and women's place?
Yes. I think how Premier Smith talked about it this morning was really well. There was some bad faith actors. I have called it out continuously. We've seen it. And then we have genuine trans women where we try and pass and integrate into society. And we have to find a way that can move forward and accommodate all of us in a safe and supportive manner. And there is a way to do it, and it starts with conversations. I'm here to have these conversations, the hard conversations. I think when it comes to sports, the Alberta proposed approach of a biological women's only girls lead, in addition to investing in co-ed and gender-neutral leads, is an acceptable solution. In some sports, there is a clear biological advantage for a transgender woman, especially one who went through a testosterone puberty. And we have to make sure sports is fair and safe for everyone involved. And really the best, right now, based on the research we have, the best approach, I think, is that balance that Premier Smith is proposing in Alberta.
Don't forget to go over rebelfieldreports.com. As I say, we don't receive any penny from the government, and so we need your help to continue our independent journalism. So please go and donate what you can at rebelfieldreports.com.